Good afternoon. I'd like to begin the Planning Commission meeting for the day. There are 3 of us in attendance, so we have established quorum. The first item on our agenda is a public hearing to have an area of the B3 zone rezoned to B2D. This is an opportunity for citizens to sort of state their case on how they feel about this zoning change. So if I do ask if anyone is planning on speaking today, if they would basically stand up so I could administer an oath. Do you swear or affirm to speak the truth to this commission today?
Yes.
Thank you. And anyone else?
There's a sign-up sheet, I think, for a public hearing. If anybody hasn't signed it.
I think everybody signed it.
Okay.
Okay.
Just for the record.
Thank you.
You know.
All right. That is the case. We will begin the public hearing. Would anyone on the commission like to start? Otherwise, invite the citizens to speak now.
Go ahead. Go into.
No, I'm just
okay.
Go ahead.
I'm aware that last meeting we did get some data on the approximate amount of commercial parking that is in that zone. I think the number they were talking about was about 68. It was compiled by John Paskey, Director of Code Enforcement. This was just looking at that area, and these are some of the parking spaces that would be possibly turned into residential. I know this has come in front of the board multiple times. I believe in the Uptown, we've been giving a small packet here talking about the Uptown planning in terms of trying to unify this zone at one point from B3 to B2D. There is also was discussion, of course, what the differences were in the type of zone differences. But again, that's pretty much it. So again, this has been brought in front of the Planning Commission in the past, previous incarnations of the Planning Commission, as well as it's been brought in front of the City Council as well. Right,
and if I'm not mistaken, we had, a few meetings back, approved the rezoning of this, and the City Council had requested that we provide a public hearing.
Yes.
Okay, without further ado, if you'd like to, you could either sit at the desk here or stand at the podium. Go ahead.
Okay, Mike Smeltzer, 18 West State, Athens.
Thank you, Mike.
Just a few bullets, very quickly. As Mayor Weil mentioned, it's been brought up a few times. It's been approved a few times by the body. The bullet points are, the rezoning is consistent with the master plan. We paid, $250,000 for a few years back. It's consistent with the Planning Commission ruling on 4 separate occasions in the past. Uptown Business Area Owners Association has endorsed it twice in the presence of former council member Debbie Phillips. I'll let the city planner speak for himself, but I believe he submitted a memo in support of that. Andy Stone has been quoted saying it would not cause or aggravate any infrastructure problems should development occur in that last block. The problems that exist would be there regardless one way or the other, and would not be further aggravated by any development. John Paskey, and I'll let him speak as well, but he said doesn't see why it would not be zoned the same. All the property owners want it, as far as I know. Chamber of Commerce is in support of it. And an interesting footnote, the Blue Gator, which, as I understand, is going to go to sheriff's sale now because it's failed to sell it at an arm's length transaction, must have a variance in order to function at all in the current zone. So in order for anybody to even make a bid on that building, they would have to first get a variance and get approval for whatever they wanted to do with that building prior to occupancy. We don't need another empty storefront up there. So that's all I've got to say. Obviously, I'm in support of this, and I'd like it to happen.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Spotzer. John brought your name up. Did you want to speak at all?
Other than the parking analysis that was done, that's about all I can remember submitting. So, speaking in regards to it. So, what you have is what I'm inputting.
Okay. Any other members in attendance of the community like to speak?
Wendy, I think.
When you get,
I didn't ask direct. I'm sorry. I'm Wendy Jackmas. I'm president of the Athens Area Chamber.
You have to come to the microphone and actually swear in.
yeah,
Pledge allegiance.
yeah. If you could lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, we'd appreciate it. Now, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth to this commission? All right, thank you. You can either be seated or at the podium, whichever you prefer. State your name, if you could state your
Wendy
name.
Jackmas, President of the Athens Area Chamber of Commerce. I really have nothing to add. I think that Mike did a very nice job, and that's my sentiments exactly. And you took the ouch out of what I was going to say. So thank you for the record.
Thank you, Wendy. Go ahead.
Oh, Wendy?
Or Wendy, sorry, if you could sit back down just for a moment. Sorry about
I
that.
didn't know there was going to be a test.
In losing, potentially losing commercial parking spaces to be replaced by residential, do you feel as though this will impact the businesses that are down there? Be the first question. Second, if we are losing a lot of these commercial parking spaces potentially to residential parking spaces, do you feel as though that is pretty much ceding that the uptown area is declining in terms of its business potential and being replaced mostly by a residential emphasis? And just how you think the 500-foot walk from the parking garage down to the upper north end might impact businesses as far as people's unwillingness, inability, whatever, to not be able to park close to the business down there that they're trying to do business with.
A couple things, RJ. I think that change is scary, and I think if people are looking for an excuse, they'll find any reason for it. I think just the fact that the businesses are behind it, that I think there's nothing wrong with parking at the parking garage. I mean, you saw Athens takes it off. Big cities have parking garages. Look at Easton. Where people park. They have parking garages. Sure, there's some on the street, but are commercial spots going to be missed? Probably. Is it going to be fatal? No. Is there a decline? I think we're in a really tough economy. I don't see a lot of businesses as totally expanding, but I think that the light at the end of the tunnel is no longer a Mack truck, and I think that Athens, I think will be okay. And if this is what the business owners are willing to put their word behind, then I think we need to go with it, because nothing would be worse than seeing even more storefronts or
I know businesses
open.
like Semesters too a few years ago.
Well, don't even get me started there, because it's like you can't please them. It's like, wah, I want Semesters, then we get them, and it's wah, we have Semesters. But I think this isn't going to be on TV. Right?
It is. It's live right now. It's a public hearing.
I know, but I just think that change is very scary, and I think is it going to be difficult? Yes, but I also feel that we'll come out of this. I think Athens is unique. I think our stores are unique. Everything about it. But like I said, I'd hate to see any more empty storefronts.
John, I mean, most of these parking spots, they're commercial, but they're not really shared between tenants. Is that correct? I mean,
Right. A lot of them look like
they're provided for their own business.
And there's some of them that may not give up their parking. 10 of the spots for the historical museum. I don't know if they'd be willing to transfer those over for residential use or whatever. And I got a feeling, I know there's 10 of them available at the BP station, but it looks like he might be already, letting people park there. So that's for residential areas already. So I don't know how many more of these spots would become available. Even though they are available, would actually be converted over to parking for residential uses.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that Mr. Smeltzer's request has a certain inevitability to it, and I understand that. One of the concerns that I keep bringing up in terms, and I talked with Paul about this a little bit, was the idea of if, for instance, the development of apartments, residential space, outweighed the number of residential parking spaces that would be available. Is this a thing where businesses would, or landlords would come to the city and ask for more variances as far as being able to buy property houses in other neighborhoods, raise those houses and turn them into parking lots. As far as like, if we really maximized what housing capabilities were there, is that something that either Paul or Mr. Smeltzer might address on that?
Well, I might, if I may, I guess my opinion on that might be that the risk is actually greater right now because you don't have the option. Any parking right now has to be used for commercial purposes. And so if you do want to, you can build residential in that district today. All you have to do is acquire your parking somehow. And so that it might actually be, those homes might be in more danger today because you have an incentive to get a piece of land, convert that into a parking lot within 250 feet of that district because you can't free up your commercial parking for residential.
I agree with what he was saying. Yeah, that's what I was going to say as well.
And in terms of future use, future development, you're kind of locking in, you're reducing again the, I guess that's what I'm talking about as far as if we're accepting a certain inevitability as far as, what business is going to be down there or available. And, in the past, businesses have complained that there was lack of parking. So if you are taking away a lot of the off-street parking capability and then just totally relying on what's in the street or the parking garage, if they've thought that through and if they're on board with that possibility. I guess that's more Wendy.
It's from everyone, I've spoken with as far as like Ayuba and business owners down on that end, they're totally behind this. I mean, I think they've had plenty of years to think it through.
Well said. And that it's true. There's been nobody that didn't want that to happen that was a business owner in that area. Nobody has objected. So,
Paul, how's the density? Obviously the residential density is going to go up in that area. Then, how does that impact that particular neighborhood, as well as maybe up above, like on Fort Street?
I don't know how I'm not going to say how it's going to impact it, but there's potential impacts. One potential impact would be that there's less pressure on those in-town neighborhoods to be converted from owner-occupied to rental. The further out you go from uptown, the less attractive being a renter is to a student. There's always a potential for noise issues. Noise is addressed through other parts of our city code. Other than that, I don't know. There's already all kinds of impacts to having 10,000 students living in the city of Athens who aren't on campus. So
right.
I don't know if those impacts would be greater or less because of this.
Well, for instance,
looks like with John, we're dealing with, according to John's numbers here, there's a potential for 68 parking spaces that would be created. So we're not talking about an apartment complex for 500-600 people. We're talking about 68 bedrooms. So it's not a huge amount of property, but to me, 68 bedrooms, that's 23, 22 three-bedroom single-family residences.
And that's the maximum that it could go under the current codes, right?
Based upon the parking, right.
But again, based
parking.
on the parking, but again, if that's where I was alluding to as far as going into the other neighborhoods and purchasing property there for parking spaces.
yeah, I don't think
that
you can
doesn't
stop
change
that.
based upon the zoning. That risk exists today, and I don't see how this rezoning, from my perspective, I don't think that would change at all. That risk is always going to be there as long as there's demand for in-town rental.
I agree, and I don't think you can stop people from applying for that, but the Board of Zoning Appeals clearly could rule one way or the other whether to grant the variance or to not grant the variance. So I don't think you can stop a citizen from coming forward to apply for that, but you can stop them if that's the feeling
Right.
About doing that. And that happened with the camera shop, I believe, something along those lines, not very long ago, which is in the zone that I would like to be. It's in the B2D already, and he did that. He asked for a variance. He got one, and he was able to do something more productive with the upstairs of that building. So I don't think you can stop those requests, but you can stop what you grant if you grant them. So,
This may be a legal question, but can the BZA grant a variance to that they don't have to put in parking, not that they have to get parking elsewhere?
They can grant a variance for numbers being reduced and/or the parking being farther away than 250 feet, or a lease versus deeded.
Right.
Yeah, we've been seeing a few of them here recently.
Well, I mean, this is a public hearing, so, I mean, we've already agreed to this rezoning, so I don't want to, I guess, move the conversation to our side. I mean, I want it to be what citizens have to say. So if there's no further comment from citizens, we probably should table the public hearing, unless anyone wants to make any final comments.
No, again, part of the concept of having those 68 spaces, there is no guarantee they would turn into residential. I mean, it behooves some businesses to keep a certain amount of commercial.
Right.
I mean, that would be that's something in their favor.
I mean, it would be their own undoing, I
Yes.
guess, is what I was trying to argue, if whether these are shared spaces or not. So,
And again, the conversation, of course, that's occurred of not doing this is to create a buffer zone between the R3 and the R1 to the north part of the neighborhood. And I don't know if that really plays that much of a part in it, except, again, it comes down to noise enforcement at that point.
right.
And I think some people, though, have mentioned, when I talk with them, that they do like the buffer, that intermediate zone between the two. But again, if you're talking about most of that area being largely student anyway, up around in the Fort, Grosvenor, Franklin area, then at this point, maybe you could have said that about 5-10 years ago, but at this point, it might be rather moot to have talk about a buffer.
Okay. That's all I really have to say.
Paula?
I don't have anything to add other than taking the recommendation from the city planner.
Okay. All right. Well, that concludes the public hearing. Thank you, those that have decided to speak.
I wanted to say one more thing.
Go ahead.
just a point of order once again.
Thank you.
What is the next step? What is the process here?
Well,
After we've shelved or tabled the public hearing, how do things proceed from this point?
from my understanding, it goes back into City Council's hands. They would have, the minutes of this public hearing would be provided to them as further evidence for them to make their decision.
Okay.
We don't want to vote on it again. Is that what I'm hearing from you?
I don't mind voting on it again if we're up to it. We had here, we're going to be one vote less than last time.
Well, no, there's nothing that says we have to vote today. I'm looking at from 2004 memo. It says this is May 5th, 2004, from the planning, actually zoning board of appeals, but not actually Planning Commission, and they had a public hearing the February 19th, 2004, and then they reviewed it. And March 4th of 2004, in a regular meeting, they decided to vote 3-1 to basically put it forward to council.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean we have to do it. I mean, this is obviously, this is from 2004. I think there's one from 2007 in the mix here too, I believe.
Right.
So it's been done already.
Okay.
Been there, done that.
I feel satisfied.
Can I ask Paul one more question on it?
Please.
In terms of just looking down the road, and again mentioning streets like Fort, Grosvenor, Franklin, how does the increased density of student housing in this situation, how does that affect the eventual, if we want to bring families back to those streets, does that have any impact as far as the greater density of population now down in the uptown area?
Housing pressure in Athens isn't going to go anywhere as long as, if we assume that the university is going to at least maintain enrollments or grow, there's always going to be housing pressure. We should be working today to try to be encouraging families to move back into the city, to get a mix of ages throughout this community, not just providing housing for students and OU administrators and faculty. In relation to Fort, Franklin, Grosvenor, the less housing that we provide as a whole, the more pressure and the economics are just going to weigh out. And so the money lies with rentals in Athens, and if we have the less rentals that are available, the higher profit you can make by renting. And so it's to the property owner, it's going to be to their benefit to rent as opposed to sell. To a family, housing prices are going to stay high. So if we have a greater housing stock, to me, there's less pressure on our R1 neighborhoods. And we can create and maintain those as residential neighborhoods for families as well as for students who choose to live in those neighborhoods.
Right.
But
But for instance, like with North Congress, I have an acquaintance who lives what she terms as I'm on the edge of what's the student end of Congress.
I'm on the edge. I live right next to
Okay,
undergraduate
so-
students on 4th Street. I'm on the edge. Having undergraduates next to me, from a personal perspective, doesn't negatively impact my life. I don't, again, from a personal perspective, not from a planning perspective. I like my neighbors on both sides of me. I've got plenty of reasons to lose sleep on a nightly basis from the 50 hours I put into the city. That a few students partying every now and then does not bother me. I like that part of it, I think. I like living in town. I like the youth and the excitement of the students in Athens. So from that perspective, it doesn't bother me. Sure, there's going to be the occasional negative impact. One or two zoning issues. If we're not looking at housing as an entire issue in itself, then we've already lost that fight. And changing from an R3 to a B2D for a small area of Uptown, which is already a downtown district, from my perspective, I don't see how that is a linchpin to that battle. But I do think there's battles that we do need to wage as a community if we do want to have families living in our neighborhoods. So, I don't know if that answered your question or not.
Okay. Just to carry.
No, I was going to give you the floor.
Okay. Just to carry that a little bit further, usually the counter argument you also hear, of course, is the parking issue. You drive the commercial parking, if it doesn't go to the parking garage, and this is mostly for employee-based on the Court Street area, they're going into the neighborhoods to park, and therefore that's the issue. Do you see that as a relevant issue, or something that's not related, or?
Are you suggesting that these businesses maybe will give up their parking and they'll move their parking? They'll park in the neighborhoods around there?
Well, I imagine most of the commercial parking we're talking about is actually for the customer. I'm just guessing. The customer goes on the street. The employees also go on the street and move their cars every 2 hours, or they move into the neighborhoods already. If you start saying we're now limiting the amount of commercial parking, the customer parking will eventually drive out the employee parking, I suspect, which will end up in wherever the meters stop, which is halfway up
right.
West State and Congress and Franklin and Grosvenor and Mound, I imagine. So the question is, are these related? Now I know I've had conversations with you, Paul, about parking and what we're trying to do with it, but does the change of a B2D to a B3 to B2D affect any of that? I guess is the question.
It potentially could. I think when I look at parking, the first thing I say is, what an economist will tell you is that demand is a function of price, and the cheapest parking is free parking, and we provide a lot of free parking in this city. And so if I have the choice between paying 25 cents or paying for free, most people are going to choose free. Mm-hmm. You do get into a point where you say, what's it worth to me to walk 5 blocks to work as opposed to paying $5 a day to park off-site? And that's a question, from an individual's perspective, we all take a different approach to what that's worth to us, the cost of parking. We probably see some of that today. Demand, there is a lot of cars in Athens. I think the cheaper your parking, the more likely you are to drive as well. And so there's a lot of other issues that would come into play there.
I think parking is so finite. We're always going to have a problem, but I would really urge that everyone put a business hat on and just think of how this impacts our business community and try and really do its best, because what makes Athens so beautiful and so unique is the fact that we have a vibrant uptown. And I would hate to just belabor a parking point for so many years and so long that businesses truly suffer just because, we talk about parking.
Okay, yeah, again, I bring this up just because that's one
Right.
aspect that
No,
has
I
been brought up
understand that, and
before.
I was just, putting my hat on as far
Okay.
as that.
By looking at the cars that were out there the day that I was driving around looking at this, it's, even though it may be required for those businesses to have the parking spaces, it's my guess already that probably half of them are already leasing them out to renters based on the vehicles I saw on the license plates, that they're assigned to have 9 parking spaces for this business use, but they're not using all 9. And other people are using, and they're leasing them out already. So,
Okay.
Well, let me remind commissioners that if another member did want to take this up as a vote, more than welcome to put forth a motion. All right. Go ahead.
Well, I just, are we ready to take a vote on it, or did you want to take a vote on it?
Again, I think it's in council's purview already if they choose to do it. Whether they would or not, we could take a vote on it, but I suspect, there's the next step. If we want to get it out of our table, we can take a vote. Out of our court, I guess, to use the tennis term.
With respect, this has been going on since December of '06. Any chance you guys could do a vote today just to get it off of your docket and get it back to the planning or back to the city council's hands?
Oh, we thought we had it off our docket.
Yeah, I know you did, Mr. Chairman. I know you did.
Just keep sneaking back. Well, I'll put forth the motion.
I think with the number of votes, I'd be happy to vote on it. But with the number of votes, it just sounds to me, Mr. Smeltzer, like the people who really are interested in this have dropped the ball in terms of putting pressure on council to get in there and make a vote. They've heard from the Planning Commission twice before.
At least.
And, at that point, I think it's incumbent on the constituents and the business community who's really interested in this to get after the city council, to go to the meeting and during their open forum to go in and ask for their vote to go ahead and push this, put it publicly on their table. I think that's probably the thing that,
I'll resend my letter.
I'll be happy to take a vote on it.
What time did you send?
Okay, make a motion.
Well,
I guess motion would be that Plan Commission recommends City Council approve the rezoning of the area B3 into B2D as defined in our documentation.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Reluctantly, but I understand the reason for doing it. So it's 4-0. Great.
Yes.
so now it's on the chamber, it's on the uptown business.
Always
It's
will
on-
send
it's on
letters.
you.
As I understand it, I think I want to say this out loud and on the record. Bill Bias specifically told me that I cannot force, or a citizen cannot force city council to take a vote. So it is.
You can in the way of pressure, and in the way of letters, in the way of petitions.
What about in the way of just professional courtesy? I've paid my fee, I've appeared on numerous occasions, I've taken time out of my day, in addition to supporting the community by hiring people, to appear before the city council on 8 or more occasions. Never have I been
Mayor Weil
granted
could
a
speak
vote.
to this better than I, but I think there's other ways of really
I can
getting
use the
the
media,
council
I
to
can
make
use-
a vote on it.
Having been on city council, I'm aware that things do come up to committees and they die in committees, no different than any other legislative body. We can make the recommendation,
Right.
and it would go to the planning development committee. And if they look around and they realize the votes aren't there, they will not. And I've been in that situation. They will not beat that dead horse. It's just not worth it for them to do that.
Okay.
So they could, in one sense, they don't even have to take the vote on that. Although technically they probably should.
They absolutely should. It's professional courtesy, in my opinion. I mean, if it's no, it's no. That's fine. I'll move on. But I'd like to have that courtesy, and I think I'm owed that courtesy, quite frankly.
Well,
So-
we'll send a recommendation to him,
Okay.
and that's where we are right now. That's
Okay.
and as I say, it's off our plate right now.
Outstanding.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you all for attending. Next item on our agenda is cases. Unfortunately, we have none, so I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but I'd like to see a little more development going on than that. Our next item, communications. Does anyone have any communications?
No.
Is that communications, or would that be a report?
Your choice.
I'll save it for the report.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. Next, then, there's our reports from the city planner.
Can I make just a
Go ahead.
commission? Can I add that my yes was probably a reluctant yes as well, but, you know.
Okay. Again, it's a weighted issue, and
Right.
there's pros and cons with it.
Mine was not reluctant.
There we go. There's
It is
yeses.
what it was.
Capital yes, lowercase yes.
Yes.
Okay. Our reports from our city planner and director of development. Would you like to start off, John?
I can start off. I laid in front of you a preliminary ordinance that we have discussed through the stage sound ordinance committee that they've been putting together. And there's 3 issues that have come up. 2 of them really don't have to come through here, but the third one would be temporary stages for outdoor venues. And the consensus was through the committee that a temporary stage or platform would be an illegal use in a residential district. I think the best place to put that then would be just that, a prohibited use in an R1, an R2, and an R3, which is what I've drafted up here. I believe the chief's wanting to kind of get it to the council here coming up soon. So I think it's just for discussion today, and then maybe 2 weeks from now we'd actually have to take a vote on whether this would be adopted and submit or forward it then through council for approval to go along with the rest of it. The other 2 issues were people on the roof and sound, or amplified sound, which are obviously nothing to do with the zoning code. Mm-hmm. So that helps you any. It's
So, John, you're sitting on this committee then, or?
yes, yeah, I've been attending the meetings of them, and
Why was permitted use not considered, or it seems like we're to prohibit, a platform.
there is
that a
no
deck or
prohibited
something?
use. This is a new thing, to say a prohibited use. I'm open to suggestions if I can think of another
Or
way
conditional,
to say.
something where they have to seek approval.
Well, the
rather than just
conditional
be-
would, I'm afraid it would have to go to BZA, and I don't think we want to get into that. It's just, the opinion was that you should not be able to set up a stage outside in a residential district, period, was the consensus, a permanent or a temporary stage. So that was the recommendation from the committee, that we added in the R1, R2, R3 zones that you cannot have it, period.
Probably we need a definition of stage or temporary stage somewhere in there too, because it comes down to, it's a temporary structure. I know what you're saying, but
Right.
When does it stop to be a structure? Or
Well,
stop
that's
to be a
a
stage?
good point, because I asked the chief, I said, how many of these venues actually take place on a deck or a balcony or a back porch,
Right.
which obviously are permanent, and so is that permissible? Probably so. I think the idea, other than the amplified sound part, the idea was there's been events occur that people put up stages that have hampered evacuation efforts, people falling, people getting hurt, putting them up in places that they shouldn't be. So obviously a porch or a deck has already been through our office and been approved accordingly, where this is something totally different. So
for clarification, this is more of a, coming from a standpoint of safety with sort of construction of these temporary things, not so much, like you said, having to do with the outdoor performance.
it's
So that's why I don't know why outdoor performance is even necessary. Just temporary structures are permitted.
temporary structures are not permitted, is what we're saying. But there are some that are. I mean, and so that's
Can a
where-
wedding be put
I'm sorry?
No outdoor
that-
performances.
Uh,
Is that a performance?
I'll try to help you out. I'll just call it what it is. This is a Palmerfest related ordinance.
I think I understand. I think it comes down to the language again. I think it's trying to be too general when it could just easily be specific.
I think I haven't been sitting in any of these meetings, but the take I hear is that there will be, it's a call. And again, the other legislation that's coming through we're not seeing, which is the noise, obviously,
Right.
And the other section. So.
And they did begin with the idea of looking at permitting,
Right.
but this is what the committee, I'm not sitting on it either,
Right,
the police
right.
chief is convening it, has decided, why would we allow this at all?
Yeah.
And it's made up of,
We did start with a state permitting process, and the consensus was that then we're allowing these things to occur. And then if they are occurring, and if they got too loud and out of control, how do you stop it if you're saying, hey, you gave me a permit to do this, why are you shutting me down because I'm too loud? So the overall consensus was, let's just ban it altogether in the residential zones. And then the sound ordinance, and as we said, it's a wholly different thing, still would have, we've got it in our code now as far as sound, but that's the only way that I could think of to eliminate a structure would be to put it in Title 23. There is nowhere in our code right now that has prohibited uses. I think it's pretty much been taken for granted. If it's not listed, it's not allowed. Or
So why aren't
or
we
could-
taking that approach?
to specifically call it out, to say you're not allowed doing this. I don't know how in any other way to. I hear what you're
I mean,
saying.
I understand where
as
you're
a
coming from,
conditional
but-
use or anything like that. I don't think we want to go to that. If it's a conditional use, then it's the same as somebody would have to get a permit for it. We would deny it and have to go to BZA. So the idea was we not allow.
Is that a
having
bad
period.
thing, though? I mean, wouldn't that sort of root out people? I mean, it'd be a pretty big planning issue. And again, is BZA, would they grant a variance? I mean, if it's clearly saying it's not permitted, they really can't grant a variance for that sort
We
of.
have areas that's called out, and maybe I need to do that to reflect the sound ordinance. There are areas that stages or times they are permitted on governmental uses or whatever it may be, but very seldom are those in an R district. They're usually uptown, so it's not usually a problem. The problem could come in as the entire university just about as R3. So, but we've been through that. There's not a lot of things that are meeting code there. So I guess we're just looking at the residential zones throughout town, and I don't know where else to put it. That was our best grasp of how to get this in there. And again, like I said, it's for discussion today. I'm open to anything as well as to another area of the code that we can put it in. But since it's a structure,
Right.
I think it somehow has to be in the zoning code.
I mean, I guess that's the concern. I mean, how is this any different with it not being listed at all?
Yeah.
I mean, you're still. It's not like, well, the police are going to enter into such an event and say, well, Title 230401 excludes this. So they could just say Title 230401 does not permit this.
Doesn't that also imply that that's the only prohibited use in those zones?
As of right
If
now,
everything
I
else
know,
is-
that's-
Yeah.
If you've got a list of permitted uses, to me, that means that those are the only things I'm allowed to do with my land in that
Yeah, I
in
know
that zone.
this commission, we discussed
So
this
if it's
before.
not mentioned, I know what's permitted, so if it's not mentioned, it must not be permitted.
Right.
But if this is saying, well, but this is prohibited, then to me, it's like, unless I'm doing that, I can do almost
Yeah.
anything. So,
Right.
as it impacts any other part of our zoning code.
I thought of that as well when I was writing this up. I thought that very same thing. Now we're calling out something specific that maybe something that isn't specific since it's not listed. Is it allowed or is it not allowed? I don't know where else we can get it in there, though, if it can go in under another section of the code through general citations or whatever it may be.
Well, can we say where it's permitted?
If it's in 23, it has to go through.
Yeah, I could probably look at it that way. That might be a better way to go about it. that say is permitted in the B1, B2, B3, take a look at it that way. All the other zones. Then that brings up a whole other issue that with the outdoor venues in a B1, B2, B3, which is a kind of a touchy subject right now as well.
Well, but yeah, I guess then maybe we could look at if it's where it's permitted and in what capacity is it permitted, I guess. But should have a comment.
One of the conversations I have with residents is these are residential zones. Do you want Willie Nelson coming to Franklin?
I'm not saying I want. I have a problem with the wording and everything. But I'd rather see it in a permitted capacity where it's permitted, not where it's prohibited.
Oh, I see. Okay, so you're talking about adding it to EI zones only, maybe, or something like that?
Yeah.
Right.
Somewhere where everyone is comfortable with an outdoor event.
That it's easier to say what you can do than what you can't do, ultimately.
That we could definitely do it that way. Let me talk to the police chief a little bit more about that as well too, because I'd like to somehow have it in other parts of the code. The part that's enforceable right now, like Paula said, for example, on a Friday evening before Palmer Fest, if my guys can catch stages being built, then we can say no, get them down. So it is something that we can, if it's in there.
I'm sorry to keep interrupting. Is that the problem at the festivals and stuff? Is these temporary stages? And I understand it from the safety perspective, but it's how big? Has something happened, or is this again? Are we trying to prevent something from occurring?
Last year we had some serious safety concerns when the party was shut down and people were trying to exit, and you had these constructed stages and people. Looking at the zone, like you said, EI, that wouldn't encompass enough. Oh, you were kidding.
Okay, sorry.
Well, the only reason I was going that way is
think we're allowed to permit anything
because I was thinking that university does have some outdoor performances, and they have a
and we did make
back
the university
at the
exempt from this.
I was just pointing out there's no definition of EI in terms of what is allowed or not allowed in an EI zone.
It would have to be, something we would allow in a B1 or B2 or B3, but they would be getting permissions to do such. So it'd be a permittable thing in a B1, B2, B3, provided it meets all the other requirements, etc.
Well, and if it's a permitted thing, I guess maybe it could. Would you want to treat it then as a conditional use in those places? That is, so you can review.
It, in a way, is probably already in there with the outdoor activity or services being done outside, which again I just mentioned is kind of a touchy subject right now too.
Right.
So we're kind of, I don't know how detailed we want to get with this. I know the chief's moving to try to get something in there by this spring, and
how do we permit stages for Halloween, but also we have there's the secure Les Cornwell's parking lot on Court. How do we? There's a band playing in that parking lot, which is private property in the B2D. How do we permit that today? Is that?
Again, it's in a B district, so it's not. It's an allowable use in the B districts, even according to this.
What did you know? Well, I guess maybe for the next meeting, let's pull up what that permitted use is.
So is there anything outside of the zoning code that mentions live performances? Not
live performances. That I can look into. That's what I was getting at. They're not allowed having the outdoor. All services must happen inside the premise through a B1, a B2, and a B3, and a B2D as well.
Right.
So I'm going somewhere I don't want to go here right now, but I think we just take a look at this, and because you're right, by making it a prohibited use, now we're saying we're calling out prohibited uses, and I thought of that very same thing as well when I was writing this up, thinking, well, I don't know, but somehow we got to get it in there, but I don't want it to go through a conditional use. I don't know where else to put it. As far as a temporary accessory structure is basically what it is. I've talked to, when I was up to state, I talked to them about these sort of things when we were talking about putting a stage ordinance, and the building department, state building department doesn't look at it anymore. Now it's the state fire marshal's office that's supposed to look at these things, but with cutbacks, they're not doing it as much. They're strictly doing just county fairs and stuff like that. So, then like Paula said, we were wanting to try to, it was a safety issue with where they were being set up in more ways than one, with lighting and the structure itself and the electric that was being run to it, and there were some problems, both during evacuation procedures and the structure of the stages themselves. So where and how is a way that we can put it in there. If this is the way it's going to go, that you cannot do it in a residential district, where and how can we get it in there that says you're not allowed doing it?
Well, that's what I was saying. It's permitted. It should be implied that it's not used. I mean, could this be more of an educational aspect that, I don't know what the city's efforts are concerning Palmerfest, but sort of educating the residents in the area.
Prior to each fest, we do sit down.
What is permitted to be?
We do sit down with the organizations that are putting them on and tell them the do's and don'ts. And I think though the Chiefs want something drafted up.
What's the fine for residents who don't, for residents who put up a stage?
That's a good question. He was putting in, I think it was a maximum $100 or $100 per offense, maximum $1,000, depending on the number of offenses. But that was tied in with everything. This, like I said, this is a 3-part ordinance.
Right.
So.
Remind me again. The other two was noise, and what was the other?
Not illuminated.
Party on porch roofs.
The porch roofs, yes, is one, and we're kind of treating that one something totally
slopes.
different as another thing that he can put in there.
Not designed.
And then the other one's amplified sound.
Snow loads it.
So,
Yeah.
Okay.
and the amplified sound one is rather lengthy.
I'd be interested to see what if this is going to end up on the Planning Development Committee of Council and see where they go with it. I mean, maybe they have a different take on it. It's in our jurisdiction in one sense, but they will eventually be signing off on it. It'd be interesting to see if they have a better or a different idea of what needs to be done on this. I mean, it is part of, as you say, a 3-portion component to dealing with out-of-control parties or whatever you want to call them. Technically, the noise, as soon as you strum your first power cord on a stage, you're probably over noise ordinance anyway. So, that's it. You could have them assemble a stage, plug in, and then they're done. It's just trying to preempt that and give them a heads up. I mean, what happens at the next Parma Fest when we say, well, kids, you can have a party, but no stage, no amplified music. I guess you can have beer,
That's basically what they were saying.
Beer and a cigarette lighter.
I guess the city will pass out cigarette lighters.
Just to share with you, Nicholas, bottom line, I feel, is Palmerfest has outgrown its location. It's in a very tight residential street, and last year were some serious problems. So.
Well, I understand the issue of safety when it comes to the stage. I just don't think this is the right way to outlaw them, I guess, in this district.
I agree with Nicholas as far as, I think it would ultimately be better to say what is permitted versus what is prohibited, because the assumption that if it's not permitted, that it's being prohibited. I think that's maybe a little bit easier, so a little more simplified for people who are coming to you also to find out what they can and can't do.
No residential.
All right. Anything else to report, John?
No, it's enough.
Paul, would you like to begin your report?
I'll keep it brief today. I actually don't have a report prepared. I apologize.
That's fine.
I know a couple of you probably need to get back to work. I do have copies of the planning commissioners from the American Planning Association for the 4 of you before you leave. So,
Okay.
Are you still getting those, Paula? Okay.
I do want
maybe.
So we have 10 copies available then. Has everybody received one yet?
I didn't pass them out.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I do want you to mention the natural hazards mitigation planning that's going on.
Absolutely. Thank you for
just so
reminding me.
everybody knows.
Yeah, the Athens County, Bob Eichenberg, the county planner, is beginning the process of a countywide natural hazard mitigation plan. This is an update of plans that have been done I think it's a 5-year update. In the past, we were doing them municipality, village, township by the unincorporated county, and then the city of Athens did their own, Nelsonville did their own, Gloucester, Trimble, et cetera. This year we are applying as one entity to streamline the process. Bob's goal will be to get that completed by the end of this year, to have a draft done, and then that needs to be submitted to ODNR and I think Ohio EPA, and that'll be reviewed, and we need to have adoption by April of 2011. So I don't think there's much that they'll be asking for from the Planning Commission itself. I will be working with Bob on that. Mayor Weil also is a member of the Natural Hazard Mitigation Committee, and so I'll be the point person for the city.
Just to let you know, it's happening, and
Yeah.
they'll be looking at floodplain, all the hazards, also natural hazards.
And Bob and his intern will be putting together a survey coming up sometime in the next month or two to try to gauge some interest and information from public officials and nonprofit agencies that work with hazard mitigation, natural hazards, and city administrators. So the 4 of you on this commission obviously would be candidates to provide information on that survey. And that's all I have. Thank you for reminding me, Mayor.
Any further questions for Paul or John? All right, thank you. Opportunities for citizens to speak who have not already. Thank you. Announcements and other business. First item of other business is our next meeting is scheduled for March the 3rd, same time. I do want to thank RJ last week for filling in as the chairperson in my lateness. I would love it if you do that all the time if I were not to make it or be late.
Sure.
Okay. Well, thank you, RJ.
That means I don't
Not
have
to put you on the spot. Yeah. You got enough roles, I think, that you have to perform. Any other announcements?
Shovel your walks.
Shovel your walk. It's not Planning Commission purview.
Since we won't be meeting until March 3rd, March 1st is the Community Police Dialogue, and that will be at 6:30 at Christ the King down there in that student neighborhood, and they are hopeful that students will attend and we can get some discussion going about these upcoming fests.
Okay.
So,
I will put it towards spring when it March 1st.
I hope. It's not spring yet.
I know.
The roundabout will be early March as
1st,
well,
right?
weather permitting. So
Yeah. If they can find it, yeah.
they can dig it up.
Disposition of last week's minutes. Did everyone have an opportunity to review?
Yeah, I move that I accept the minutes of February 3rd.
I second. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
This meeting is now adjourned.
Thanks.